I always get a product placement shot if I can. This is one of mugs I made a long time ago for the stage play that I wrote called Death as a Salesman. Death as a Salesman. There's Todd. Todd is the other main character besides my sister, Dorothy, about which I'll have, or about whom I'll have much more, or which, you know, one never knows, her much later. As long as I can put it off, perhaps. Anyway, my name's Douglas Truth, and this is everything I know. Another 10 minutes, plus or minus, worth of that. So I know in the last two videos that I got kind of heavy, because that's sometimes where I go. Death and dying and all that stuff. So I thought I'd go back. I'd try to veer, you know, against the current, back into the nominal reason for this video thingy, whatever it is. And that's painting. So, as I'm a painter, my name's Douglas Truth, and so there hasn't been a lot to say about my paintings. In fact, it's always not really a source of frustration because I don't really care. But I've noticed that it's very difficult for me to say anything about my paintings other than I really like this one, and yeah, that's a pretty green, and this one doesn't do so much for me. I don't know why. And I not only eschewed such analysis, I actively avoided it. Because there's like Susan Sontag once said about her, you know, her 800-page book. Somebody asked her what it's about. She goes, well, you know, it took 800 pages. Kind of a flip answer, but I know what she means. It's just the painting thing. It's like, if it's perhaps the most economical way to tell the story that's in that painting. That's what we might hope for as a creator. It's like that's the most economical, elegant way to tell a story. And it can't be. It's like it just works in such a different way than the written word or the spoken word, the verbal, you know, the spoken verb, as my friend Menelo McFarland calls it. That you're just sabotaging it. You're. I think for some people it's that they're uncomfortable there. They're uncomfortable in a non-verbal communication situation. At least with, you know, paintings, it's just not so much uncomfortable. They don't know what it means. They're searching for a meaning, and they want that meaning to come in words, a flow of words, and so they might talk a lot about it. And but the painting stands on itself, and as far as I'm concerned. I like to know the history, and I like to hear stuff about paintings, but I don't need to be told what it means. If there's a background that will help me appreciate it more. Yeah, that's cool. So stories, that's what that's the theme, I guess, is stories or narrative, as my friend who clued me into all this recently, Dr. Witten, the good Dr. Witten, he's a frontier psychiatrist, is what he is. And he said, Douglas, your work has taken a new turn. And he said it's narrative now, by which he means there's figures, and there's some kind of action happening between these figures. You can't figure, who knows, I don't know. But it's just a freeze frame in the action. And just by their placement and all the other stuff, you know, and there's a story there, much more so. I mean, there's a story in my old ones, but it was like the story of drying paint or something like that. It was a story of a still, silent, kind of dreamlike space, but just one where things were still, where there's nobody around, which has always been one of my favorite things, I'm sorry to say. I think that's one of my indicators for the far range of the autistic range. Something it's like, I lived in Anchorage, Alaska in the 70s, and I was a surveyor, and I did the work of a civil engineer, even though I wasn't one. I designed subdivisions and sewage systems and even a golf course. But when I was up there, on those weekend summer holidays, where the sun goes down for about 3 hours, it's bright all day long, all the 24-hour day long, and I would stay in town, and it was just like, wow, it was like the movies, where everybody's gone, and it's just like that, and I loved it. I'm walking down the middle of the road downtown, just nobody around. Something I loved about that. I guess that means I'm kind of sick, but I'm enjoying the company of people much more so than I used to. So this story, this narrative that, what he said, the frontier psychiatrist said, here's a pretty painting, but nothing's happening. Here's one, something's happening. It's very exciting. And so I'm gonna get the questions for sure, like what's happening in this painting. Well, I have no fucking idea. It's just I'm as eager to know what's going on, but probably less sanguine about the possibility of actually knowing what's going on than anybody. It's just like it goes back to what I was saying about analyzing painting. It's like maybe I tell the story and know the story in a way that just can't be verbalized. That's understandable. For people, some people, grew up in the Western world, I think it might be difficult to understand that there's something that can't be understood verbally. If you can't, it's like I guess there's an idea around that, if you can't describe it verbally, it doesn't exist. I had enough brain damage to know that's not true, because I couldn't verbalize anything. All the filing cabinets were locked. But I still knew what was going on. Yeah. So that's what I've got. I'm supposed to be sketching. There's a blank 18 by 24 canvas, black gesso, in front of me, and I've been just standing here yakking. So a story. So like in my older paintings, a story might be a big, gigantic dining room table, and there's like one plate. It's like, oh, it's so lonely or something. But what I'm actually invoking is like that scene in 2001 near the end of the movie, which is, to me, quite obviously like that's the Bardo, the Reaper. He's gone through the whole deal, and that you're solitary in the universe, I believe, is part of that experience. Like when you suddenly get that thing that we're all one, which is like a lot of these pretty things that we say, I think sometimes aren't so pretty when they're experienced. Like everything is alive. That pantheistic, or I don't know the terminology, but somebody will correct me. But just where everything is alive, that idea. And I've been in these spaces where everything was alive, and it was like terrifying. It was like, whoa. And that kind of thing can show you that the human intelligence that you're so used to experiencing, and with which we identify reality, is just a fragment, an unknown-sized fragment. You can only guess, and it would be pointless to do so. Something is going on. That's all I know. I'm not sure if I've said that before here, but it's like, there's a few things that I think worthy of a bumper sticker. Maybe, and it's like something is going on. Now, see here, I'm drawing a big monster kind of figure. I did that without even thinking about it. See, so what I do when I'm not talking into the camera to distract myself from what's actually happening to the thing in my left hand is I just turn on music, and I'm really to the vast annoyance of my friends, I can listen to the same music over and over and over and over. When I lived in Alaska, I built a cabin out near Wasilla. You know where Wasilla is now. Everybody knows Wasilla. But I had a little tape machine, and I think I had 3 tapes. I had 2 Grateful Dead, American Beauty and Working Man's Dead, which I think is one of the greatest albums ever made, and Van Morrison, and that might be it. That's what I just would flip the tape. Same thing when I was screen printing in Grass Valley here, 15 years ago. I'd be working with people, and they would just go, "What? How about a new tape?" Okay, fine. I like that one. Start like with Van Morrison. After listening to Van Morrison for like 25, 30 years, I started getting some of the lyrics. In case this thing is already over, and I've gone way over my time limit, I ought to tape a goodbye and see you next week. So goodbye and see you next week, but I'm also thinking that I'm probably going to put in a bonus piece, a short piece, where I talk about almost nothing about. But I talk about painting in detail, you know, with like with pointers and stuff like that. And we're gonna have Bob Ross in here sometime. We're gonna interview him, I think, or at least we're going to impersonate him. If he won't show up, that's the challenge. All right, I wish you well, and I'm Douglas Truth, and that's everything I know. Okay.
And we'll take the knife here. Let's start with some Prussian blue, Van Dyke brown. These two are in about equal parts, and a touch of alizarin crimson. So we have blue, brown, and crimson. Mix it up, pull it out very flat. Let me clean the knife so you can see this well. Okay, come right up here. Now, cut across this and get a little roll of paint right on the edge of the knife. This is where the straight edge on the knife really comes in handy. It makes the knife much, much easier to load. All right, let's go up here. Now, probably one of the simplest mountains to make, and also the most popular, is the little snow-covered mountains. Now, take the knife, you have that little roll of paint.